Thank you, viewers, for joining in today's discussion, which is conducted by International Council for Security and Safety Management. We have been very watchful about what has happened 2 days back at our border area. A drone was sighted, as it is reported. Two blasts occurred, and there is link in many sources found between sighting of drones and the explosion caused in one of the Air Force stations. Many of our members in ICISS have raised the question whether it is because of drones, what are the possibilities of using drones in such situations, and how, if at all, a gap is created or observed, how this gap is to be filled. With the same, we are discussing this matter with the expert, Mr. Dilpreet Singh, who has come for a very specific reason from Canada, and now I am told that he plans to go back to Canada once again. But he has
Yes,
been expert in the subject, and way back when people were still discussing what drones are, he was already handling them, and not only handling them, he was also suggesting ways and means to what all can be done to counter the drones. So he was way ahead, and I recall his association and the hard work behind organizing event. That event was Dronacharya, very cleverly named, and a white paper was also published. Without any further introduction, either on the about the expert or on the subject, I request Dilpreet how he sees drones in relation to critical infrastructure and strategic assets of our country. Dilpreet.
thank you so much, sir. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you for giving me this opportunity. So, first of all, this is something that was pointed out long time back that drones are the next cell phone. They are the future. There is nothing wrong if they are used the right way. Critical infrastructure in many countries right now is extremely dependent upon drones. From not only surveillance, I'm talking operations, maintenance, administration, safety, you name it, because it is able to give millimeter grade accuracy. So when, for example, if they do a power line inspection, physical inspection takes about say 5 days, 6 days. A drone, same drone can do that. It just flies, analyze the tape. Maybe within 1 day you will have your reports with you. So drones are the future. So there is no doubt about it.
Uh, Drones are the future. It was said
Sir,
many years back, and today
sir,
is the present time. Even when we were discussing how drones can be used to augment the existing security, it would provide aerial view. It would
sir,
replace the patrolling. It will do
sir.
not many things.
Right.
Okay, even pizza delivery was once upon a time in Bangalore
Done with
considered and
drones.
tried of. But even
Sir,
before we could discuss drones as asset or tool, enabling tool to security management, drone itself became threat to security.
absolutely, sir. Absolutely.
And if these are threat, how do you see them as threat to infrastructure and strategic assets of India, defense assets of India?
Sir, so I'll be very honest with you, sir. India is such a vast country with so much talent. However, same talent is not utilized in the right way. For example, if you have a young person who wants to experiment with drones, he will take it to check an oil pipeline power, solar panels, and the same thing can cause a nuisance. So even before the start, there is a stop button that is being pressed. For security augmentation, sir, drones have three distinct advantages. A, it can go to areas where not regular camera eye can go. It is dynamic, it can move, it works like your PTZ, and of course, it can do heat detection in areas where maintenance or risk assessment is required. Now, sir, if I talk about drones being misused, India planned a digital sky platform almost about 3, 4 years ago when we had submitted the white paper. Government wanted a GSM SIM card based identification, and we had mentioned that this is not a foolproof system. You can use a simple 250 rupees, 300 rupee technology, which is an infrared, and you can get a real time info of the drones flying. Of course, the tender and all was out, but the implementation is still in a very limited role, sir. The government is working really very hard. The industry is cooperating, but the implementation is in a very limited role. At that moment, we had pointed out that this can be used as a nuisance provided direct steps are not taken in a timely fashion. Now, here's the quote, what is timely fashion? And that's exactly why we are having this discussion, sir. The timely fashion got a little delayed, sir, and it has done its damage.
So these are now potential threats.
Sir,
So if these are potential threats,
sir,
then there must be countermeasures. Because I
sir,
know that if there is a technology which becomes a threat, then
sir.
solution comes from technology itself. So if drones are
Absolutely,
threats,
sir.
how to counter them?
Sir, drones need communication. Most cases, I will touch the autonomous part later on. A drone pilot has a remote control. It's a remote control device. A remote control sends signal, go left, go right, go up, go down, come back. It has a GPS for navigation. You know, GPS is right now in every smallest possible thing you can think of. So these are two major ways of communication. There is an unrestricted band globally, which is 2.4 and now 5.8. That's used for everything, for your cordless phones back in the day to now drones. It is an unrestricted band, sir. Problem lies when you don't monitor this, and it's obviously not practical to monitor such a large volume, sir, because 2.4 is for everything, for right from kids' toys to now drones that are going up to 5, 7, 10 kilometers. I'm talking small drones here, so the kind uh, we have heard for the latest incidents.
So
The biggest
and
issue, sir. Sorry,
yes,
sir. Please go ahead, sir. Please go
no, no, you continue and don't call me sir, please.
ahead. Sir, with the regards with your my
It
history
is
with
meant.
you, sir.
Okay, it is meant to
Thank
be.
you so much, sir. Thank you. So the biggest problem now is people in India, like I said, are very talented. They would have improvised. We had been pushing this 3 years ago that cross-border smuggling is happening. There are people trying to misuse this technology before countermeasures are in place, and that is what has caused a major security scare in a defense area. And this unfortunately is a very scarring incident. India's first, not the world's first, but India's first. It's a matter of time when we see it again, sir.
So things from the point of view I am looking at is
Sir,
not very uh, cheerful and kind of giving confidence because I know
sir,
that bigger things will take care of themselves, as you know that saying goes. We need to take care of the small things. When DGCA was modeling their regulatory mechanism, You had white paper published. I also had
Right, sir.
couple of round of discussion with DGCA, and that time I used to ask one question, that it is very comforting thought that there are bigger drones which need identification, which need licensing, which would have signature. These can be detected through radar, take off, and their entire flight path and all that thing. That is okay. But my problem is coming from small drones, those who take very short time for launch, reach the height where they can potentially cause damage, and writing of them is not very heavy on the pocket. So these are very
Right, sir.
economical, very fast to deploy, and shoot and scoot kind of approach
Absolutely.
a saboteur or mischief mongers can have. And I am shuddering to think about terrorists, what all they can do. So problem comes from the small drone. Is there any
Sure.
technology available for detecting small drones?
Yes.
Because in radar system they cannot be detected, I am sure, isn't
Yes,
it?
sir. There is.
And
Yes, sir.
these
There
these
are
are the
companies in
drones.
India.
These are the drones which are under that category where signature, license, and labeling is not no required.
Sir, I'll go point wise. First, smaller drones, yes, there is ways to identify it. There is no doubt about it. You can identify. You can identify them right when the time you turn them on, because that is the time it starts emitting RF everywhere around. So 3 to 5 kilometers, and I'm going by the maximum distance, 5 kilometers away, you can detect them even before they are airborne. Number one, sir. Number two, sir, smaller drones right now, and again, keyword is right now, pose a lesser threat unless you pack them with a good amount of HE or Semtex or some very difficult to obtain explosives. They are easy to jam also because they rely on a very common frequency, 2.4, 5.8. You do either white noise jamming or you do packet jamming. People who know a little bit about RF would know that if in defense, they do white noise jamming. They jam the entire spectrum. In civil or in police or in law enforcement term, they do packet jamming mostly, unless it's a VIP moment. Smaller drones, sir. Smaller drones are used for surveillance. My Now I'm not a defense expert, but my assessment in the recent IAF explosions is smaller drones were used to mark the targets because they are quiet. Nobody could hear them. They can go at a distance where it's very difficult to differentiate between a pigeon or a bird or a drone. They were used to identify. They were used to mark the targets. They went back. Then bigger drones, or not bigger, I'm talking 910 grams to 980, less than 1 kilogram drones were used to pack the explosives and leave it right on the roof or where it was discharged. Um, there are some very good companies that are able to detect micro drones. I am talking drones about 80 grams, 50 to 80 grams, very small drones. You fly them, they go up in the air, the system detects them that it is approaching. It will detect you, tell you the altitude, it will tell you the direction, it will tell you this is the speed of an incoming aircraft, and it will also tell you the pilot's location. That is what is available right now in India. Unfortunately, our bureaucratic process is a delayed process, and that's how the procurement is being delayed. Otherwise, yes, the government is actively looking into it. They are aware about it.
So for those who are not very expert understanding the technologies, I would like to
Sir,
now get clarification from you that there are many RF emitting devices. So drone detectors, as you mentioned, detect the drones because radio frequencies emitted by them. So
right.
would they not be confused because there are many other devices which are emitting radio frequencies? And how
Absolutely,
accurate
sir.
they
Very,
are?
very good point, sir. Very good point, sir. You're right. But any other devices that is emitting that frequency, we go into subbands. So it is 2.4, 235 to say 2.4987. So that point zero 2 to 0.09 band is what is usually given to different companies, different remote controls. That's how it works. Also, the other emitting RF factors, they don't move. So anything that moves, they know this is a potential drone coming towards us. That is one issue. Second, GPS. Now, anything that is flying, GPS is the core. There are only three companies that make these chips, and it's very easy to detect them because there are about 27, 28 satellites at a given time that activates your phone. It will give you the strength, and of course, it can be detected that this is a moving object and this is a potential drone coming towards us.
Uh, I know many strategic infrastructures which
Sir,
are in the middle of thickly populated areas.
sir,
Similarly, many cantonments and armed forces establishments are also very thickly populated areas. Adjacent civil population is sharing the boundary wall. Such kind of situation.
right, right,
Even the Air Force stations, without getting into specifics, are in such situation where very close vicinity civilians live. So you can control your environment within your premises. Outside the boundary wall, you have very limited control.
right.
And the drones, which are very small, yet capable of carrying IED to cause harm, which terrorists or saboteurs, mischievous want to, even when their objective is just to create confusion, they will be very successful because drone detection technology will take time. And
Yeah,
even if it is very fast, the response mechanism will take time, isn't it?
sir.
So if
Absolutely, sir.
if
Absolutely.
a rogue drone is detected, then how to counter it? The decision is to be taken, and then response is initiated. This will take time. By then, this drone would have done the mischief
Damage,
already. तो इस
sir.
इस सिचुएशन में कोई रेमेडी है, कोई सॉल्यूशन अवेलेबल है?
Sir, critical infrastructure, and I shudder to say this, sir. Right now, there is a sword hanging on every possible critical infrastructure in the country, sir. Unfortunately, sir, critical infra companies are, they are not being allowed, right? Being PSUs to private companies are not being allowed to purchase because of certain approvals. And there is a sword hanging, there is a major, major risk. IF based attack has given ideas, it has spread out ideas. This was happening in Middle East. ये सर अभी इतना बड़ा रिस्क पोज हो गया है. There are some very good sharpshooters that are required to shoot down a drone. A moving object, I'm sorry, moving गाड़ी को गोली मारना is not easy. You're talking a flying object, a small thing, और जितना वो height पे होगा उतना छोटा होगा. It is a virtually extreme situation for security professionals at the moment, sir. The only way I can think of is critical infrastructures or some sensitive locations be allowed to purchase countermeasures, RF jamming, GPS jamming, so that area is sealed. Now, GPS jamming, so there are two ways you can geo lock that location itself. All you have to do is you lock the location. No drone can enter. It's gonna go blind in that area. I am aware of a government, rather an Air Force facility that had done it on its runway. Also, there is another critical point that can cause security nightmares. That is, if the drone is little higher and you cannot hear it, your guards are looking at 100, 200 meters, this thing can go up to 1200 meters, sir. ऊपर से कुछ फेंक सकता है आपके ऊपर and you are sitting ducks. So this is a major concern for security industry, sir.
Thank you, Dilpreet. You made things a
Pleasure, sir.
bit easier to understand.
Sir,
We are discussing as security professionals.
sir,
There
sir,
are on TV channels many veterans discussing as
sir,
defense expert. I'll not put on that role because I am not qualified.
sir, sir,
Even when Air Force has not attributed what has happened 2 days back to drones, but fact
sir.
in discussion is that there were two explosions, and
Right, sir.
it may be just our guess, maybe our imagination going wild, that we are trying to link drone with those explosions. But as security expert,
Sir,
let's discuss that
sir,
a situation where someone who has got fund of say 20,000
sir,
can do major harm to multi-story building or oil and gas installation. It
sir.
is painting a very gloomy picture, because these are the
Sir,
possibilities you and me understand, and let
right,
through this discussion others also understand that we are talking about the
sir,
possibilities and not
sir,
prophecy that it will happen. But then if we can discuss and if we can find the solution, probably tomorrow will be better prepared. So with limited fund of 20,000, many things can
sir,
happen with drone. And
sir.
if that is the possibility, what
Sir, 20,000 is too much, sir. How much does a
too
bag
much?
of urea cost?
so
So,
so
sir, that is all is required. Bag of urea, Purani cycle, and
so
Purani cycle, bag of urea, and that's about it, sir. Sorry, I'm having some signal issues.
okay. Now, in the meantime, you can listen and later on join. So we are not giving again, specifics. We are not giving formula and
No, sir.
ingredients how to misuse drones. But then
Sir,
20,000 is considered to be a big amount by Dilpreet, and I
sir.
modest. But then I know that under 10,000 also similar devastating result can be obtained. So these are the
That's right, sir.
potential threats drones are posing. So now,
Right.
if I have
So
to
basically,
protect a
sorry,
multi-story building,
sir,
what needs to be done?
sir. Sir, you just need a pilot, and it can do the damage. You just need a pilot, sir, and it can do the damage when it gets there. Basically, for security professionals, this entire ordeal is a nightmare. For oil and gas pipeline, it's a nightmare, sir. You don't even need an explosive. You can buy a second-hand drone from some random person and just fly it into it, and then sparking is going to do the rest. The battery is going to do the rest. We are sitting ducks, is what I had mentioned 3 years ago. We are sitting ducks right now. The problem is now people know the disruptive use of this technology. The critical infrastructure, the security industry, the government assets that are major money makers for them are right now at an extreme risk level. And extreme is, I'm guessing, the top. I'll give you an example, sir. The attack that happened was a dry run, in my opinion. This is my personal opinion. Was a dry run just to check how effective countries' air force infrastructures and radars
Okay.
are. And then, of
Okay,
course,
Dilpreet, sorry to interfere
sir,
here. There is a
please,
question
please,
from
please.
one of our viewer, and
Sir,
the viewer wants to remain unnamed.
right, sir?
So his question is that, assuming without agreeing that 2 days back at Jammu, drone was used for IED, but it was during night. How is it possible? So we are
Sir,
assuming without
uh,
agreeing.
um, the security sentry heard a whirring sound he mentioned. Uh, the problem is this drone that came in was used to drop an IED without confirming anything. If it was a crash aircraft or it was a fixed wing, there would have been debris, there would have been wings, there would have been propellers. There was nothing besides marks of the explosive. There are very limited photographs that are available. Second thing, sir, no matter what we say, no matter how much of a denial we are in, and this is exactly what I had faced while my dealing with the government, that अरे ये इंडिया में नहीं होगा, अरे इंडिया में ऐसे चीजें करना बहुत मुश्किल है, इतना आसान नहीं, हम लोग पकड़ लेंगे. मैंने कहा सर, this is after the fact. What about the initial risk that you face? There were risks. Sir, imagine a single ball bearing, a छोटा सा ball bearing would unfortunately, if our an air asset would have been hit, वो aircraft तो damage हो जाता है. एक crucial point पर चला जाता, that aircraft would have been damaged. Major cost in repairs. You should rather invest in a counter drone system than going in for repairs and trying to find people. End of the day, we are reactive, sir. We are not proactive. That is what sets us apart, and we are looking to achieve international expertise and international dominance in security, but we are reactive, sir. That is our problem.
Yeah, thank you. In fact, we are assuming without agreeing, but I have a newspaper just handy. This newspaper shows एंटी ड्रोन सिस्टम ना होना बड़ी चूक. So if I can see the screen, एंटी ड्रोन सिस्टम ना होना
Sir,
बड़ी चूक. और दूसरा साइड में लिखा हुआ है, सैन्य प्रतिष्ठानों के लिए ड्रोन बना बड़ा खतरा. तो ये दैनिक जागरण, आज के दैनिक जागरण में लिखा हुआ था. कॉरेस्पॉन्डेंट है, वो अपने
sir,
नजरिए से बताते हैं. दे आर expert, they have been doing reporting of defense matters. Their understanding is very very sharp. तो काउंटर ड्रोन
sir.
मेजर्स किस तरीके के हो सकते हैं जो एयरफोर्स स्टेशन या अपने जो डिफेंस एस्टेब्लिशमेंट्स में हैं वहां डिप्लॉय किए जा सकते हैं? कैन यू शेयर
Sir,
certain
a lot. Sir, I'm sorry. Bilkul, sir, bilkul. I'll get to say that. I'm sorry, I forgot one very, very crucial point for every security professional listening, sir. Night में जो attack हुआ है, sir, night flying is expert level flying. आप एक आम आदमी से रात को ड्रोन नहीं उड़वा सकते, उसको नहीं पता लगता. That is assuming without confirming वाला आपका point, sir. Coming to the deterrence system, sir, anti-drone measures के लिए there were tenders out, there are companies shortlisted, delivery time, maintenance, वो सब चल रहा है. There is an immediate requirement for areas like what happened in Jammu, sir. Pardon me. Radar, Air Force radars are very strong. They can pick up anything. However, you have a very difficult moment अगर ये डे टाइम में होता. रात को आपकी तरफ को छोड़ के आ रहा है, it cannot be a bird. I'm sorry, the person manning the radar should have known it is not a bird. दूसरी चीज, ड्रोन्स की बॉडी कार्बन फाइबर की है, सिर्फ उसके जो मोटर्स हैं दैट इज मेटल. कैमरा में छोटे छोटे कंपोनेंट्स हैं, दैट इज मेटल. Entire body is carbon fiber. Radars can only give you a possible issue with it. There are concerns for it, sir. So the government knew there were issues. The anti-drone is the requirement for almost every institution where there are assets placed where it is a critical area, J&K especially being sensitive, sir.
But one of the viewer is not very, you know, happy about the kind of response you have about drone operators being expert, and he says, Brigadier Teotia, he says that even
Sir,
a wedding photographer knows how to fly a drone during night. So what you are talking about?
bilkul,
No
but
expertise
he can
needed.
see. I'll
But
tell you,
then
sir,
even
he can
that
see.
wedding photographer is expert, isn't it?
Wedding photographer can see. There is a screen that he can see. यहाँ पे कौन खड़ा है? I have to go left. I have to go right. For a drone to fly at 100 meters, सबसे पहले मैं request करूंगा, if possible, if anybody has a drone, just fly it at 100 meters and see वो कितना छोटा होता है. वहां से navigation करना, you have to rely on GPS. So the person, whoever was flying, knew the exact GPS coordinates. There was a homework done. That is why it said it initially that smaller drones were used to do surveillance to find out to geolocate the target. And then at night this flying happens, sir. ये पहली बार ही नहीं हो सकता कि एक बार आप blind fly करके वहां जाओ. That is what I'm saying. I was told to fly. There was something I was doing for NSG. Night trials के लिए I was told to fly at night. I said, sir, रात को उड़ाना बहुत tough. I cannot differentiate. There are two kinds of stabilizing mechanism in a drone. One is a propeller. आपके propeller wind के base के ऊपर drone को stable रखेंगे. सेकेंड, उसका जो कैमरा है उसकी इमेज से आएगा. अगर आपकी लो लाइट होगी तो आपकी वार्निंग आ जाती है, कॉशन, लो लाइट, काइंडली लैंड द एयरक्राफ्ट. दिस इज व्हाई आई एम सेइंग नाइट फ्लाइंग के लिए वहां जाना बहुत मुश्किल. नाउ कंसिडरिंग पायलट नहीं था, इट वाज एन ऑटोनॉमस प्री प्रोग्राम था कि इस जगह पे जाके आपको एक्सप्लोर करना. अगर प्री प्रोग्राम था देन व्हाई नॉट दी हैंगर, व्हाई दैट रूम. सेकंड पॉइंट, अगर प्री प्रोग्राम था तो ही वेटेड फॉर बिगर एक्सप्लोजन के बाद ही न्यू पीपल विल रिस्पॉन्ड, क्यूआरटी आएगी, आपका बेस्ड ऑफिसर आएगा, एओसी तक आ सकता है. ही वेटेड फॉर 4-5 पीपल टू गेट इन एंड देन ही लॉन्च द सेकेंडरी डिवाइस. So night flying के लिए sir, that is the reason I'm saying it is tough. My assessment, I am not a very good pilot. I am a basic beginner level pilot. My assessment is जितना वेट रहेगा उतना ड्रोन का एंड्योरेंस कम है. अगर उसने आधा घंटा फ्लाई करना है वो 20 मिनट करेगा, 15 मिनट करेगा. सो दिस पर्सन whoever launched it with the aircraft was close by. It did not come across the border. It is very difficult to do that. आके अपना काम करके चले गए हैं एंड वी वर अटेंडिंग टू कैजुअलिटीज एंड डेब्री ऑफ अ रूफटॉप.
Uh, Dilpreet, during the discussion, it
सर,
occurred to me that
सर,
in same areas, 5 days back, 6 days back, drones were reported attempting dropping ammunition. And if Pakistan has got drones of this capability, then they have trained pilots, they have better drones which can carry so much of payload. So carrying half a kg of ammunition and precision targeting the critical establishment is not a big deal. And naturally, police doesn't have detection capability there. That's why they were
राइट,
trying to chase in wilderness, and later on reported that they were sighted. Means visually उनको देख पाए, they were sighted, and before they could get, they vanished. Where they vanished,
राइट,
again no detection, no follow up. That means the police doesn't have detection capability, and forget about the quick response to such eventualities. And also, the radar system at the border is not very effective. Again, not as defense analyst, as security professional, I make my deduction. That also means that the vulnerabilities from better drones and with better organization are very, very, disturbing and damaging. And this was very
ये
small time operator with very, very I would say, unprofessional approach, maybe a freelancer and amateur kind of attempt. So when it is professional, well determined, with support of good organization, then result would be very damaging. So abhi ye, before I sum up, there is observation of this type which I shared with you.
Sir.
I want you to make a concluding remark about what is the situation today which is developing from defense perspective. We will not touch from security perspective, homeland security and industrial security. This situation which is developing, do we have already counter mechanism and the solution for that?
Sir, my concluding remarks for this would be primarily two thoughts. First thought would be a this threat for security aspect, for critical infrastructure aspect, is imminent. I'm 100% sure the bigger one is going to follow. Even if the government makes an emergency purchase, it's going to take time. A bigger one will follow. This was a dry run. This is my assessment, so my personal assessment. For critical infrastructure, the only way out and the only way out is mitigation. Even if you don't have detection, you need a mitigation, you need a portable jammer. Even if you see a visible drone, आपके गार्ड अगर आउटर पेरीमीटर पे खड़ा है वो बता सकता है कि साहब यहाँ से आ रहा है, आप उस तरफ पॉइंट करके you shoot. It doesn't have to be exact general direction. At least you can stop it. At least you can drain the battery. At least you can send it back. अगर आपका बजट लिमिटेड है क्रिटिकल इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर फॉर डिफेंस I am sure the government is now on war footing. It has to be. There is no way back for it. Uh, my assessment for defense is this was very unfortunate. Please ramp up your radar systems. Please ramp up your defense mechanism, your jammers, whatever you can. Geolo fence the area. For critical infrastructure, for security professionals, for areas that are high risk, you need a mitigation strategy, portable jammers, anything that is 800 meters to 1 kilometer, 3 kilometers. They are cheap. They are 5-6 lakhs. At least the catastrophic effects can be saved. अगर वहां बाहर गिर जाएगा, आउटर पेरीमीटर में गिर जाएगा, एटलीस्ट जान और माल को हानि नहीं होगी. ओपन एरिया रहेगा. That is what, sir, I would like to say. I am more than willing. I mean, I am no, like I said, this is just what my personal assessment is. I could be wrong, but I've been doing this for 3 years. I have went up to extreme top of the GOI, right from cabinet secretariat to units, and this is my personal experience, sir.
Dilpreet, I would like our viewers also to know what DGA
Sir,
mandates in a situation where over a critical infrastructure, a rogue drone is detected.
sir, PGCA has
DGCA
a
की
law.
DGCA की
So please,
गाइडलाइन
sorry.
ये बोलती है, when a drone is seen in the aerial boundary of a critical infrastructure, then this must be reported to SP and DM,
Right, sir.
and they will mobilize their reaction response.
Sir.
But by the time I see a drone coming into my sky, where there is no fly zone, I am talking about a big refinery or big petrochemical complex, or even for that matter, airport. डिफेंस की मैं अभी बात नहीं कर रहा हूँ, मैं कमर्शियल एस्टेब्लिशमेंट की बात कर रहा हूँ कि इवन एयरपोर्ट आर नो फ्लाई जोन, many petrochemical complexes और मेगा रिफाइनरीज आर नो फ्लाई जोन्स. लेकिन उनके पास राडार तो होते नहीं है, राडार तो फौजों के पास है.
Right.
तो
बिल्कुल।
और उनके पास अभी ये मैंडेट भी नहीं कि सबके पास जो है ड्रोन डिटेक्ट करने की टेक्नोलॉजी होनी चाहिए, कुछ लोग लगाएंगे कुछ लोग नहीं लगाएंगे, लेकिन एक सिक्योरिटी प्रोफेशनल के नाते मुझे मालूम है कि ये मेरा एस्टेब्लिशमेंट नो फ्लाई जोन है और यहाँ एक ड्रोन दिखाई
सर
देता है। जब तक मैं उस ड्रोन को बाइनाकुलर की मदद से उसका डिस्टिंक्ट आइडेंटिफिकेशन नंबर नोट कर पाऊँ, और जब तक मैं पुलिस वालों को फोन कर पाऊँ, और पुलिस को पहले फोन करूंगा फिर डीएम को फोन करूंगा, और वहां ये लिखा हुआ है कि पहले पुलिस को फोन करना फिर डीएम को, यानी कि मैं पुलिस को फोन अगर एसपी का नंबर एक बार में तो मिलता नहीं है, तो एसपी का
नहीं
नंबर नहीं
मिलेगा
मिला
सर।
तो वहां बड़े साहब बुरा मान जाएंगे, वो कहेंगे कि डीएम को डायरेक्ट फोन क्यों कर दिया आपने, एसपी को बताना चाहिए था। अब इस दुनियादारी
राइट।
में वो ड्रोन तो इंतजार करेगा नहीं, वो तो आया और चला गया, या आया
चला गया सर।
आया और वही जो है स्विच ऑफ कर दिया। इम्पैक्ट ट्रिगर मैकेनिज्म है एंड इट विल एक्सप्लोड ऑन इम्पैक्ट। तो थैंक यू वेरी मच, हैप्पी बर्थडे। तो ऐसी सारी सिचुएशन में मैं ये सोचता हूँ कि सिक्योरिटी प्रोफेशनल्स को अब उनको सोचना चाहिए कि व्हाट आर द थ्रेट्स दे आर फेसिंग एंड व्हाट आर kind of budget they are looking at to counter those threats, because having security at a cost and having no security with all the cost involved, to be lost. So this is the kind of uh, analysis they need to do, and they need to find their own answers because they have to fight
राइट
their
सर।
own ghost. So security professionals need to get into the situation, visualize the maximum loss, and whether their organization is willing to bear that loss or willing to have reasonable expenditure for counter mechanism. तो मैं अब ये दिलप्रीत आपसे ये एक बात और जानना चाहता हूँ कि बहुत सारी टेक्नोलॉजीज की
सर
आपने बात की है, ये इंडिया में
सर
इजीली अवेलेबल है, इंडस्ट्रियल सिक्योरिटी के लेवल पर डिप्लॉयबल टेक्नोलॉजी है, सॉल्यूशन प्रोवाइडर हैं।
सर सोल्यूशन प्रोवाइडर्स हैं, डिप्लॉयमेंट टेक्नोलॉजी है। आपने डिटेक्शन नहीं लेना, आप विजुअल डिटेक्शन आउटर पेरीमीटर के गार्ड को ट्रेन करके जैमर ले सकते हो। जैमर इज द रॉन्ग वर्ड टू यूज बिकॉज वो गवर्नमेंट के उस पर इलीगल है। Anything that can stop mobile signals is considered a jammer, which is illegal. Anything online that you see is illegal. To for critical infrastructure, I am talking, they will have to go to center government. They will have to get exemption letters कि हम लोग रिस्क में हैं, आप हमें परमिशन दीजिए बाय करने के लिए। and then they are looking at a budget of anywhere between starting from 1 lakh going up to 5 7 10। अगर आपको बहुत ज्यादा डिस्टेंस का चाहिए तो लगेगा 25 30 लाख, जो 5 किलोमीटर तक डिटेक्ट कर जैम कर देगा। बट सर, for a critical infrastructure, for refineries, for power plants, for solar plants, anything that involves the nation's backbone, they need to have a counter mechanism right now. There is no going away from it. यहाँ से चीजें downhill ही जाएंगी सर। यहाँ से the only way we can survive is we have a deterrent system. आप डिटेक्शन भी ना करो, आप डिटरेंस सिस्टम पे इन्वेस्ट करो, तो आपको एटलीस्ट विजुअल गाइडेंस पे आप मेजर इम्पैक्ट रोक सकते हैं। सेकेंड थिंग सर, सिक्योरिटी इज ओनली रिक्वायर्ड व्हेन थिंग्स गो बैड। जब आप देते हो कंपनीज को या क्रिटिकल इंफ्रा को कि ओके वी नीड दिस दे विल से फाइंड आउट ऑफ बजट वी कैन नॉट डू इट। ऑल इट टेक्स इज वन प्रॉब्लम। आफ्टर व्हाट हैज हैपेंड डे बिफोर यस्टरडे सर, things will change big time in the country. There will be people that will be supporting because they have seen the impact. All it takes, like I said, for a critical infra like a gas or an oil pipeline, you don't even need an explosive. Sir. आप जाके pipe में bang करो and it will do the needful. So, with security in mind, I request everybody who is involved. Online बहुत ज़्यादा information available है. Just see, there are companies in India, there are equipments available in India, but the permissions and red tapeism and the bureaucratic, culture needs to be addressed. या तो collective voice project की जाए, tell the government that you give us approvals. I know some critical infra are allowed to even keep weapons, so why not counter drone? Why not counter drone? I mean, it helps save. अगर आप एक एटीएम के गार्ड को बंदूक दे सकते हो, तो आप एक ऑयल एंड रिफाइनरी को काउंटर ड्रोन सिस्टम क्यों नहीं दे सकते हो?
Definitely. With this optimistic note, I would like to
सर,
conclude the discussion. And thank you,
थैंक यू
Dilpreet.
सो मच सर.
You have been very
प्लेजर
helpful.
सर, प्लेजर.
You are knowledgeable
एनी
person,
टाइम सर.
and
थैंक यू सो मच सर.
I look up to you for any technological information and specification related to drones. We
सर,
would have further discussion whenever time permits and opportunity occurs. But then, for the
इंडीड
time
सर.
being, let all security professionals understand that they have to fight their own nemesis. They have to
एब्सोल्युटली सर. आप
identify they have to identify their problems, and then only they will find the solutions. If you do not identify your problems correctly, your solutions will be faulty. And if you think that technology can always answer all the problems, then either you don't understand your technologies or you don't understand your problems. Dilpreet has clearly indicated that there are technologies available, and it is only up to the security professionals to suggest to the management what would be the best fit for their own requirement. Thank you very much. You have been very helpful. Audience have raised many observations, asked very intelligent questions, added value to what we have discussed. Dilpreet, thank you very much. God bless you. We are closing
थैंक
the
यू
discussion
सर.
now.
थैंक यू सो मच सर.
The
थैंक यू.
last comment was just to share last comment which came from Ritu, and she compliments like I do and others are doing. Thank you very much, and
थैंक यू सो
remain
मच.
in touch.
प्लेजर सर. प्लेजर सर. थैंक यू सो मच सर. गुड आफ्टरनून.